to not just come and get a job and a check and go back someplace else and live. They need to have a vested interest here. I think we should demand that. For what we pay an administrator, they ought to be able to live right here in the city. So that is one of the things that I would basically really like to see. There are other things as far as really being able to work harmoniously with council. I never ever want to have a relationship with an administrator that I can't fire. And that's my job as a council. And I think that's what we have to really be a part of. Know our role and stay in our lane. Thank you.
I think one of the qualities that a city administrator needs to have is be approachable by everybody, the council, the mayor, the citizens. Anyone that has a question, they ought to be able to talk to her or him and get a straightforward answer and not beat around the bush. Don't have your picks here that you want to talk or picks there you want to talk to. You represent, just like the council does, you represent every citizen in this city with that position. And I think that's the biggest quality that you need as an administrator. But I also think that it would not be a bad idea for council to keep an administrator on a short leash and keep them accountable for every action, good or bad. Praise them when they do good, scold them when they do bad, and let them know that their process of running day-to-day operations hinges on how they communicate with the citizens and how they communicate with you. As the old saying goes, if you give them enough rope, they'll hang themselves, and that's usually true. And that's how I feel about the administrator position, and I feel like it needs to be looked at, studied, and like Isaiah said, somebody that's vested in this community that wants to see better for the community and better for the citizens and everyone that they represent. Thank you.
First thing I'd look at for an administrator is first, if they would be willing to move to the city that they represent. The second thing is if they're willing to work with the council and mayor, along with the citizens of the city out here. A lot of times that the citizens have a problem, they'll call the office to speak to the administrator, and they should be able to get in touch with that administrator. If they're not there, then they should be told where that administrator is or how to get in touch with that administrator. And that's the one thing that I would look for, is an administrator that would serve the public as well as the council and mayor. Someone who is invested in the city, someone who loves the city, someone that has the knowledge to go after the grants that we need for this infrastructure in this city, and get those grants approved and get them in. And that's the first thing that I would look for in an administrator. Thank you.
As it pertains to a city administrator, I believe that, for one, this person should be trustworthy. They should be able to be a person that the citizens of Pickens feel as though they can trust and feel comfortable approaching, as it has already been stated, as being approachable. However, I think that the individual, whomever they are, should hopefully already live in the city of Pickens. I'm not really a big fan of going out, grabbing somebody, and putting them into a place that they know nothing about. They don't know the citizens or anything of that nature, and that just creates conflict. I believe that we have great citizens here in Pickens, and many who have the skills necessary to be a city administrator. But of course, that comes with vetting and further investigations and things of that nature. But as it pertains to one being here, I believe that, and if, in my opinion, they should already live here in the city of Pickens, and they should be a resident already in the city, so that when citizens approach them, that level of being comfortable will already be there because they already know who the person is instead of having to deal with a stranger. So I believe that they should be trustworthy, that they should be approachable. But then they should also be a person who really has a passion for Pickens, as it has already been stated. But how can you be passionate about a place that if you're not from here, that you know nothing about? But if you live here and you're already invested in this city, then you should be passionate about the city. So that's what I believe.
Well, I think a humble servant leader would be a good place to start. But I can speak to you as an attorney. I'm not an expert at city administrator. But if you came to me as an attorney and I was giving somebody advice, I'd say, well, we live in a representative republic or democracy, basically. And the elected officials that you put into office, they elected the last administrator. Okay? And we have to remember that. We have to remember that, and you need to remember that. You know, the people that you put into those offices are going to elect that administrator. This is not going to go to a public vote. You know, that would be maybe a nice thing, but where does that slippery slope end? I mean, we're going to take everything to the public? We can't do that. You know what I mean? So that's why we're elected officials or whoever you folks put into that office. So as an attorney, I would say you better think a very long time, because you had 4 years and you just went through a city administrator that caused havoc and chaos, almost terminated your chief of police, which is the best chief of police you guys have ever had. I mean, there's so many things. I don't need to tell you, guys already know. So a representative form of government, just remember, the city council and the mayor, they're going to elect. They're going to, hire your administrator. So you want the people, the worldview basically of the city administrator and the mayor that you elect is absolutely essential. I hope that you guys think a long time about that, because you're going to get what that person really is on the inside. What do they really believe? What are their ideals? What are they going to really bring to the table after all this talk is over? And they get to start making decisions on your behalf, and you have to live with those for 4 years. Thank you very much.
This is a big responsibility facing the upcoming city council. The hiring process needs to be strategic. We need to interview and ask the right questions, look at the right backgrounds. We're going to need someone that has good fiscal responsibility and management experience with all of the departments that they're going to be working with, is approachable to the public as well as the other city employees that they're working every day with. We need somebody with integrity, and we really need somebody with vision. We need somebody that's going to have a plan and know how to enact their plan and is open to hearing the voices of the community members. We need someone that's going to be passionate about Pickens. I'm not necessarily sure that it has to be somebody that's from here. I have a great love and passion for Pickens, and I am not originally from here, but I love it here. So there are a lot of experiences out there that we could be open to from other applicants that may not currently reside within the city. I think it's a great point. I believe Jimmy said it about them being open to moving here, but it's really important that they understand what they're getting into. We've come through 2 years or more of a lot of mess, and make sure that this person is going to be prepared, knowledgeable, accountable, trustworthy, and is willing to take on everything that it's going to take in that position, and we'll encourage them along the way.
My turn now. Okay, our administrator, I think, should be educated, have a master's degree in public administration, and at least 5 years experience at the most, and she needs to be very familiar, or he, excuse me, with this area. And I don't think they have to live here, right in Pickens, maybe in Pickens County, within the vicinity of Pickens. Don't have a problem with that. But we have to have someone that can get along with people and treat everyone the same and be good to the employees. And if an employee is doing a great job, you need to let them know. It's very important, because if they're doing a great job and you let them know that, or administrator lets them know that, they will work harder for you. I've always felt that when I have been working. So that's the type of person we need, someone that can get along with everybody, be available, and reach out to the council and be honest with us and let us know everything that's going on. Do not keep anything from council or mayor. It's very important. And do not go behind our backs to do anything. Everything should be open. And we've had some problems with past administrators, so it's very important we get somebody who really cares for our city and wants to work hard and do the right job for us. That's what I'm looking for. Thank you.
Okay, we'll start with Danny this time. Danny, and everyone else, here's the next question. What do you think is the number one problem in Pickens, and how would you address it? What do you think is the number one problem in the city of Pickens, and how would you address it? Danny, we'll start with you.
Right now is unity. There's a whole lot of bickering and fussing amongst neighbors, council, the town as a whole. And I think you need to remember when you hold this position that you're not going to always agree with everybody else in council, but your job as a councilman is to remember you represent every citizen of the city who voted you in there, and you need to work together to make it the best for every citizen of the city. In my opinion, there's a lot of room for improvement on unity and working together as a whole, not only on council, but in the whole town. And don't just cater to this section, that section, these friends, them friends. Remember everybody, and remember that's who you represent. Is the whole town as a whole, and you need to learn to work together. Tolerate some stuff you really don't want to tolerate, but that's part of life. That's life in general. You have to put up with a lot you don't want to, but be the bigger man, and always leave a place better than what you found it. Thank you.
Well, Danny stole my answer, but I guess the next will be the infrastructure of the city. Our infrastructure is in such despair that I have to drink bottled water at my home. I don't even drink the water that we have here. It's hard enough to take a bath in. So I think that we need to work hard on the infrastructure. We have a new water plant in place that's fixing to come in place. It's ahead of schedule in order to bring pristine water to the city of Pickens. What the citizens in Pickens deserve and what they pay for. We're going to have to work. It's a long process, but we're already ahead of schedule. We're starting probably next month, I think they said, and installing the new water lines in the city that we have grants to do. And we're just going to have to reach out. We're going to have to build this infrastructure back. It's not something that happened overnight. It's happened over all the years with a lack of repair and upkeep. And we're just going to have to work hard to get that done. We need to give the citizens what they pay for in the city, the services that they pay. And right now the water is it's not, you can drink it, it's not bad to drink, but if I turn it on and it's a little dingy looking, I just buy a bottle of water and I drink it, unfortunately. My family does, but that's where I would really say our infrastructure is in bad repair. Thank you.
For me, the number one problem that I see in Pickens is poor representation. I think over the last few years, many citizens have addressed concerns about many things. And while some things were fixed, some things were swept up under the rug and were just ignored. And I believe that in order for our city to continue to grow and to flourish and to move forward, the people who have elected us to serve have to be heard. I thought about last night an answer that I heard a resident of Pickens said, and I kind of want to put a twist on it. I remember when I got married and I stood before over almost 1,000 people in a church, and me and my wife took vows, and it was in front of all these people. I understood that I no longer belonged to myself, but I belonged to her, and she belonged to me. And we were there to serve and to love one another. Whenever an elected official takes an oath, they no longer belong to themselves, but they belong to the citizens that have elected them to serve. And so my hope is that over the next several years, once this election's done, the citizens of Pickens will be finally able to have their concerns heard, but also to be able to get something done about the issues that are plaguing our city.
Well, that's a good question. I think I have to start again with this is the biggest issue right here on this stage that you have right now. I would tell you that, again, at my profession as an attorney, if you came to me, who do you put on that council is what you're going to get over the next 4 years. You have to absolutely know that. You know what I mean? You can say we want representatives that listen to us. Well, how do you know they're going to listen to you? You know, how do you know they're going to vote the way you vote? I mean, for 4 years, they can basically ignore you. I mean, we would hope that's not the case, but I've seen some of that in the past. I've seen that all over the nation. When we lived in Colorado, I mean, and I think all of you have kept up with Colorado. I mean, when we first moved there, it was a wonderful place to live. It was conservative values. It was a wonderful, there was no legalized marijuana. There wasn't just nonsense galore. But we watched it slowly decline into absolute chaos. The infrastructure cannot manage itself. The people, half of them are addicted to drugs. You don't know who's shooting you or passing you, who's intoxicated. It is at, and I can tell you, this is coming here. I know everybody, one of the concerns I have listened to as I've talked to folks, and I understand it, that you want to keep the growth here limited. But the growth, because we live in a free country, it is coming here. It is coming. I mean, it already is. Downtown Main Street is so busy. I mean, you can't hardly walk across the street after church on Pickens First Baptist on Sunday. And it wasn't like that even 2 years ago. So what do we do? I mean, you have to start right here. You need to put people in the office that you know are going to represent your interests, and then we work on the infrastructure. I agree with a lot of the answers up here, the water. Thank you very much. Long-winded lawyer, I'm sorry.
It has been so humbling and enlightening to hear the concerns and what the citizens feel is the main problem. But guys, that really does not to sound like a broken record. It starts at the leadership of the city. It does. And that's our issue right now. We need leadership, we need vision, we need a plan, and we need to breach the divide that's come very sincerely, so that we can do a better job of serving you and have a better place for all of us to live, a better place to call home, a better place for people to visit, a better place for businesses to come and start, and a better place for the youth and the next generation to grow up and succeed. So it's kind of like a Rubik's Cube. Once you move one piece, there's a lot of other pieces moving as well. And if you don't have that leadership basis to turn to and to direct the city, all those other pieces aren't going to line up. So leadership is where it needs to begin, and we need to start there, and we need to listen and have open minds and bridge the divide that we've seen recently. Thank you.
Okay, well, I was going to say some same things that Allie just said, but leadership is very important. We don't have enough of the right leadership in our city. We need supervision, and we're kind of lacking a lot of that, and that's why a lot of things aren't getting done. So that's very important. You've got to have the right people leading the city. It's very important. If you don't have that, you can't get things done. And there's a lot of stuff that's not getting done in our city because of leadership. So I'm a very big advocate in getting the right leaders in our city to take care of all the problems we have, because I get a lot of complaints, things that's not being done, and I won't go into all the things that's not getting done, but leadership is very important. Supervision, definitely need supervision. We don't have enough of that. We need some supervision here, and good customer service is very important. If we don't have that, you can't get a lot of things done. So we definitely need to bring in some good customer service. Thank you.
The biggest problem is that we don't know what we're doing. We talk about this and that in leadership, but this is a council form of government. The council is responsible for the legislative and administrative. We just hire somebody to help us, but we're supposed to be our finger on everything. You elect a mayor so that he can help be a conduit between council and the public, and also inform everybody about what's going on. I think the biggest problem is not leadership. People want to do good. And they make mistakes and people are flawed. But when you make a general statement that leadership is not good, then you put that on everybody. And that's not the case. We've had great leadership. I was in council when David Owens was the mayor. He was one that said we were going to be together on everything. We were going to be unanimous. That's one thing we got to be able to do, is be together. But first and foremost, we have to operate like we're supposed to. There are policies and procedures that we don't even adhere to. We just want to do it our way, and we want it to be our idea. And if it's not, if I can't run it, I'm going to ruin it. And that's not the policy to have. We're not going to point fingers and talk down on people. I'm here to tell you I'm the best person because I want to lead humbly. And I see an opportunity here for Pickens to really come together. Thank you so much.
All right. And some of these questions are a hybrid of ones that we came up with and you guys have asked. So on to the next one. It says, there has been a lot of discussion lately from the citizens of Pickens about concern for support of the city police department. What is your position on our police department? And Jimmy, you get to answer this one first.
We have one of the best police departments that we've ever had. A lot of concern with the citizens is that, and rumor that we want to fire the chief. Never has that been brought up. Chief Beach is a great police chief. He's a good leader. He's got good people in under him that do the job that he sets them out there to do. Many of a night, he is out there with them, 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. We as council have increased his budget within 3 years that he's been here, almost $70,000+. That doesn't sound like a council that wants to get rid of the police chief. So all I can say is it's never been brought up in council to fire the police chief. He is doing a great job. Thank you.
I personally have great respect for Chief Beach. He's a great man, very, very smart and very informative, but also very compassionate. He's very compassionate about the city of Pickens. I serve at a funeral home in Greenville, and we've had many funerals here in Pickens. And I've never seen the chief of police be at a funeral to lead an escort. I've never seen that personally, and I come from Greenville, of course. But it speaks so highly to see the chief, the top officer of the city, be present during times of grief for families. But also I believe that, and as I've heard, that there's been an issue with keeping officers in this city. There's been an issue with pay and perhaps other issues. And I believe that whatever the council needs to do to keep not only Chief Beach, but also keep officers, retain them, but also to grab new, fresh, good officers, the council needs to do whatever needs to be done in order to keep them here, but also to retain officers and bring new ones here.
Chief Beach is one of the finest men I've ever met in my life. I spent probably an hour with him today. I just asked, can I come in and chat with you for a little while? And he's sure, my door's open. I've worshiped with him at his church. I have come to know him personally over the last year or two. I have never met a man who is as a servant leader, as such a precious law enforcement officer in my life, and I've worked with a lot of them as an attorney in Colorado. So for you to, I mean, the question, I think everybody in here is well aware of that, and I think it would be a very great loss to this community to lose a man such as Chief Beach.
Clay, could you repeat the original question again, please?
Got to borrow this again. I'm loud, but not that loud. There has been a lot of discussion lately from the citizens of Pickens about concern for support of the city police department. What is your position on our police department?
Thank you. I am a huge supporter of our police department. I think that Chief Beach is, as everybody's echoed and a lot of the citizens agree with and feel, he is the epitome of a leader, and his employees under him certainly follow him and see that every day. I also would just like to say that I really support all of the other first responder and our EMS, our fire, all of those communities. They all work very diligently every day to keep our community safe, and I fully support all of them. Thank you so much.
Okay. I don't have a problem with the police chief. There has been rumors going around that if I'm elected mayor, I will fire him. And that is not correct. It's just rumors. I want everyone to know that. And people have brought that to my attention, that he says she will fire me if she gets elected. That's not the case. I have no problems with our police chief. He does a great job. And I had a sit down with him just last week, and I think we come to some conclusion about this and have it all worked out, because I do respect him as a police chief, and I think he's doing a wonderful job. And I have never said I want to get rid of him. That's just what people are putting out there, so I just want everyone to know that. Thank you.
I love Chief. I love his wife. I love everything about our police department. We've increased the budget, but Chief is paid pennies for his work. The officers are paid pennies. We have a lot of activities going on in the city, and they have to be at those activities. And he's worried about overtime because we've complained about it as a council. That's why he feels he's not appreciated. He tried to get trucks. It was supposed to be Explorers. All y'all probably saw it, but that was some of the things that people started to speculate because there was no communication going on. When we communicate to one another, that ends speculation. We wouldn't have to say or hear that these rumors that are going on, because you would know. Chief is overworked and underpaid. We need more officers that he can't get because we don't have the money for it. I'm hoping that I could help get the budget more operating to where he would be able to get the resources he needs to really do what he can do. He was awarded a Lifetime Achievement Award by the Alcohol, Firearm, and Tobacco. national organization. It was at the museum, and it should have been packed out. This is somebody that is no lightweight. When President Trump came, the Secret Service men knew him by first name. Thank you very much.
I think we have a very good police department. I like the chief. I like his relationship he has with the community, the relationship he has with the kids. Tell you a story. My grandson thought it'd be a good idea to get a piece of bubble gum, sneak out the door, and his mama caught him. That didn't pan out well, and the chief took it on himself to teach a lesson. I've never shared that story with the chief yet, but if he's watching, he probably knows now. I'll have to explain that one to him. But he goes above and beyond what he has to do, and I think it says a lot about the man with the relationship he has with the youth, because the youth is the future. And it's good to have someone in that position as sort of a mentor over them and keep them in line and give them the teaching moments if they're not getting them at home. But if they are getting them at home, reiterate them, put a little scare in them, won't never hurt. But I think overall the police chief and his department does a fine job. Thank you.
All right, next question. What is your plan to revitalize downtown Pickens? And Morrell, we'll start with you on this one.
So you kind of put me on the spot with that question. As it pertains to revitalizing Pickens, the thing I really love about Pickens is that Pickens has retained that small town feel. Even, yes, it's growing and new people are coming in all the time. That small town feel is here. I was just talking to someone about that the other day, how I love when you come through downtown, it's just a simple ride through. Yes, there's businesses on both sides, and it's good to see so many new businesses coming this way. I have a family member by marriage who just opened up a business in downtown. And it shows that Pickens is yet alive and thriving, that even though we're a small city, doesn't mean that growth is not happening here. But as it pertains as to revitalizing it, I think, honestly, and as I've said it before, if I'm elected to council, I'm just one voice among many people. But as it pertains to revitalizing, I would hope that the council that is put together, that is elected, will see a need to not just try to copy what Greenville has done or what the bigger cities have done, because we don't want to lose that small town feel, even though we want to continue to move into the future. We don't want to stay where we've always been, but we don't want to forget where we've come from as well. And so as it pertains to revitalizing the city, my hope is that we can continue to attract new businesses here and attract new people to come here to want to invest and live in Pickens, but also to make downtown a beautiful place to visit and will attract tourists to come here.
Well, if I was your attorney and you asked me this question, I would say, well, it starts with infrastructure. And what's the infrastructure? Well, we got to have police, we got to have fire department, we got to have our roads, we got to have safety. I mean, we have a main street that is so cluttered with traffic that it's almost not crossable. It's dangerous. So when I've been around talking to folks, I mean, the zoning laws are totally out of control. I mean, I'm just giving you some of the things that perspectives that I've got from folks. So we need some, and I could talk forever about all this, so I'll just get off that. But we have some zoning issues. We need to bring in new businesses. Folks say we want local businesses. What, like Revive Restaurant? That's been one of the best restaurants. My wife and I really enjoyed going there, and I think just about everybody goes there. So local restaurants, local community, inviting people to open up things. But I mean, the foundational issue again has got to be you guys. What do you want for your community? I mean, it really, I feel humbled to say that. I mean, who am I to tell you? So I'm really here to listen to you. Yeah, I have some ideas. You know, I would like this town to grow, and I'd like it to be very conservative. You know, and I'd like it to be the police department not to be defunded, and we open up a new police department, and we open up a new fire department, and we have land already purchased. My understanding that we can go ahead and build those facilities. So we can build a structure, we can improve our water and our sewer, so we can invite businesses in that want to be here, but without the infrastructure, they're not going to come here. We can barely supply our public with water and sewer. So, I mean, we have a lot of work to start at the ground level, and I think my time's up. Thank you.
You know, I was looking online at the City Hall website last week, and I believe that the downtown master plan that's on our city website has not been updated since 2013. So 10 years ago, sorry, 10 years ago was the last time that plan that's on our city website was visited. This is where the planning and the vision needs to come in. The Chamber of Commerce, I'm a big supporter of the Chamber of Commerce. And I think that there's been some revitalization in Pickens, certainly since I've moved back. The new businesses are wonderful. The business owners need to be supported. How do they do that? How do we do that? How do we support them? Is there enough parking for them? Beautification is important. Maintaining a lot of the historical places that we have in our central business district, keeping the area beautiful, and working with the state and the county. A lot of the roads just through downtown are maintained by the county or the state. And so there needs to be collaboration on that, and we need to revisit the downtown master plan. I think Isaiah was on that, right? So maybe he can help us out there. So anyways, supporting the businesses. And, you know, I also, in my career, I see folks that have bought some of the older homes in town and fixed them up and revitalized those homes. Instead of building a new home, they're revitalizing homes that are here. So working with the businesses and working with other departments. Thank you.
I would love to see more businesses in all the vacant buildings downtown. I think we should reach out to the owners of some of those buildings to see if we can maybe get some of the rent reduced so people could afford to move in there, because it's hard for new businesses to start up because of the rent. They're so expensive, it's hard for them to make it. I would love to see our downtown just thrive with more businesses, because we have so much potential downtown. And I'd love to see more parking. We have a vacant lot on East Cedar Rock Street that the city owns, and we could turn that into a parking lot. And I think I'd love to see crosswalks from East Cedar Rock to the Doodle Trail with a speed bump there. And then also crosswalk over from the Public Works building to the Doodle Park with speed bumps. And that would help us a lot for that area. But that area, I think in the Doodle Park area, needs to progress more. We need more things near there, because that's a beautiful place, and people really love coming to the Doodle Park. The trail is wonderful. The kids love it. But I want to see that area thrive, and our downtown, we can keep a small town feel, but we just need to get more businesses in the vacant buildings. And I don't know if we could give them some kind of incentive to get those businesses to come here, but that's what we need, because we have a lot of potential there, and we could be better than Travelers Rest, I think. So that's what I'd like to see, and have a lot of parking where we could just park and walk to all the downtown areas and bring all the people in. I think we'd bring a lot more people in.
I think we have the opportunity that's already before us to do great things. People may not be popular with this, but the market at the mill, people start businesses down there. We talked about Revive. They started at the market at the mill, then came to Main Street. crafts and events. They just had a grand opening. They started in the market of the mill. We have a feeder there already where they can test out their business. They can get whether they're able to make a living at it, and then they can move further. I think we need to embrace one another, the Greater Pickens Chamber of Commerce and the market at the mill and us citizens, to recognize those things that are there that we can place already in our main street. But before we do that, we have to get our main street up to par. Most people have low water pressure. You go out East Cedar Rock, it's low water pressure. The same thing on Main Street. People are not going to have businesses there if we don't have that. I realize, because I grew up here, y'all. You remember we used to have this big discussion about that water tank that's on Main Street? When we stopped using that water tank as a water tank, we lost our pressure, because it's one of the highest points in Pickens. So those are the type of things we need to look at, and so we can move forward. I think we have the things in place already. All we have to do is recognize them, embrace them, and encourage them to move forward. Thank you.
One of the things would be infrastructure right out of the gate. Bring it up to par for what it needs to be, because most small business owners uptown have friends that's small business owners too. And if you got a small business owner uptown now, it tells his friend, you need to come to Pickens. Well, how's your water? How's this? How's that? He's going to base his decision on whether or not he wants to come to Pickens off what his friend tells him. And there's a lot of potential there to make it a whole lot bigger than what it is. And I agree with the feeder system. Use what you got here already. And if they see that their business is going to make it, that's that much more enticing to them to go to Main Street if you can go up there and all your infrastructure is brought up to date. And make it grow, but not crazy growth. Keep it controlled, but fill the buildings up that's empty up there, and take some input from your local business owners out there. It wouldn't be a bad idea to get the ideas on what they think on revitalizing their livelihood. Thank you.
I walked Main Street Pickens last week, last Saturday as a matter of fact. Spoke to a lot of people there that was out of town that was actually up there walking Main Street. I looked, the street was dirty. It's the only way I know to put it. We need to clean our Main Street up first. We need to promote our city. We need to get out and promote our city. We need to find some way to give an incentive to get people to come in and open these businesses in this city. We need to back our businesses. We need to I lost my train of thought, but we need to promote the city. We need to clean it up. We need to have the infrastructure there for someone to open up and be able to run. I did not notice that many empty buildings on Main Street when I walked Main Street. Most of them have been filled up. Most of them have come from the market at the mill. We've got great businesses that's opened up there. I went in, I spoke to the business owners that I could get to, and the biggest problem they have is with the parking. The parking is not enough, and we need to come up with a structure of like the parking lot that we have. Fix it. Fix our parking lot. Fix it to where they can park there. Fix it to where they can walk and be safe and come to our Main Street. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Floyd on this one. Floyd, you'll start this one, okay? Pickens County has begun experiencing a large amount of development compared to previous years. What are your plans to address this expected growth here in Pickens, and particularly the large tract of land that's on Malden Lake Road?
A large tract of land, well, let's start with that. I'm long-winded, so I believe that's the tract of land that we're talking about annexing into the city. I believe it's a good idea, and this is the reason why. Either the county's going to control that piece of land, or Pickens is going to control that. The county's going to get the tax revenue, or Pickens City's going to get the tax revenue. You're going to have people building out there one way or another. So if you annex it into the city, our police get to control it. We get the tax revenue. We get to zone it according to how big of lots or how small of lots we want, how we want it built. So, I mean, again, if they were my client, I would tell you, I think it's a really good idea to go ahead and bring that land into, but at the same time, I do understand we have a right as American citizens to buy or sell our land, and this is an opportunity for the city to say, with freedom, to finish that last sentence, but this is an opportunity for the city to say, okay, yeah, you can buy or sell that land, but we want to get some control of this matter. So here's a really good idea. Let's just jump in there and let's bring it into the city and take control, as I have said. It would be a great idea. That's the counsel I'd given. I forgot the other part of the question. So, thank you.
Do you want to repeat the question one more time? Sorry, Davey.
Pickens County has begun experiencing a large amount of development compared to previous years. What are your plans to address this expected growth here in Pickens, and particularly the large tract of land that's on Malden Lake Road?
Thank you. I agree with a lot of what was just said, honestly. I believe that it needs to start with a plan for development. What is the plan for the growth and development that is bound to come to our city? It's coming. It's Greenville to Easley, and it's going to come to Pickens, so we need to be ready for it. We need to have restrictions and ordinances in place to make sure that overdevelopment doesn't come and we don't turn into what we don't want to be. Maintain the feel that we have here and avoid overdevelopment. Our infrastructure can't handle it. That's what you've been hearing all evening. I'm also pro having places for the police officers that we need, the teachers that we need, places for them to live. Where are they going to live? But we need to have a plan in place before this happens to ensure that our infrastructure and that our utilities and that our employment can withstand that amount of growth. So the opposite of growth and development is stagnancy, and nobody benefits from that. Let's just be prepared, and let's make sure that what we want our city to look like in 4, 5, 10 years from now, there's a plan in place for that to happen.
Okay. I am all about responsible growth, but it has to be handled responsibly. We have to check out all of our options if we can maintain the infrastructure, the sewer, this is for the Malden Lake property. We have to see all of their plans. What's their ideas? What size houses do they want to build? And it has to fit in with the vicinity, I think, with the neighborhood. We can't just let anything, we have to do it responsibly.
Excuse me. We are not ready for that type of growth. We don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the police. We don't have the public works for the roads. We don't have a school system that can handle over 200 houses. We were given a plan and it was brought up for first reading without any kind of planning going on. I asked for it to be tabled because you've got to make a plan, a comprehensive plan. I was on that before. It ain't no good to make a plan, y'all, if you ain't gonna follow it. I mean, we could plan all day long, But if we don't follow a plan that is really comprehensive, that can really work, you know, we're talking about water, right? We have bad water. Greenville sells their water. They say they got the best water in the southeast. Do you know where they get their water from? Lake Kiwi. You know where that pipe goes through to get to Greenville? It was poor planning because we did not put our into it. Nobody can sit on that board. What I'm saying is, this was done in the 1970s. You can't just up and say, okay, let's do this. Because we're not ready for that. We need to be Pickens and understand, get this perfected first. Because it's not. And then we have growth. I'm all for it. If we're ready for it, what good is it if we can't serve the people? And we're not serving them now. They got bad water, bad pipes, bad water pressure. Police overworked. Fire department needs more room. Thank you.
I feel like growth is coming, whether we want it to or not. It's going to trickle this way because everywhere around us is growing. I think back to the planning part, there needs to be a plan in place so we can handle it when it does get here and we ain't all looking at each other going, well, they knew 15 years ago it was coming. Here we are. And on the property on Malden Lake, there's a whole lot to that because not ready for that. You hate to tell somebody what they can and can't do with their land. But as a whole, I don't know that the city is prepared for that because that's going to be maintenance guys, your trash pickup, your water guys, your police, your fire, and I think their hands is pretty full right now on what they're doing, and I feel like that needs to be part of the planning stuff too when it's sit down and talked about, to know that you got to prepare for every bit of it, not just the revenue you're going to get off of it. You got to look at the big picture of all of it. Thank you.
My first question was, will our infrastructures withstand those 200 homes? I was told yes. Well, I have concerns about that. They will not be getting water from the city. It's my understanding they'll be getting water from, I believe, from the Bethlehem Roanoke district. However, they will be on our sewer. Right now, with our grants that's coming in at this point in time, we're only touching the water lines. We're not touching the sewer lines. I have questions. Will our sewer withstand it? They state, yes, it will. I have concerns because we have problems with our sewer now. And 200 extra homes, not only that, I'm for growth. Don't take me wrong, but I'm for growth in the right direction. And I'm for growth that we can get a handle on and keep the small town feel in this town that we all grew up with, that our parents worked so hard to keep. And I've just got questions about it. There's a lot of questions. Will our streets and roads handle 200 more houses? Will our schools handle 200 more houses and the people that is there? The plan that they came up with and presented was just a fraction of an acre. No, that would be an ideal place for a 3 or 4 acre farm. Those houses, and it would be great. That'd be a beautiful place. I'm not against growth, but I believe in growth in the right directions and make sure that we're ready for it when it comes. Thank you.
Growth is inevitable. Growth happens. As it was previously stated, it's coming from Greenville, Easley, Pickens is next. So growth is here and growth is coming. But however, I'm a person that believes in planning. You have to plan for something before it gets here. If you don't plan for something, you're asking for a disaster. I pastor a church in Greenville, a small church. And when I came there, the church wanted to grow. They wanted to see new faces. They wanted to see this. They wanted to see that. But one thing that I made perfectly clear when I first got there is we have to take care of what's going on in-house before we welcome anybody else in here. We don't want to be so messy that we're bringing in people and they're just bleeding on the mess. They're seeing the mess that's going on around them. As it pertains to here in Pickens, we have to make sure that our infrastructure is fixed first before we look at building a bunch of new houses and growth over here, growth over there. We have to make sure that our water pressure is up to par. We have to make sure that our roads are up to par. We have to make sure that our city ordinances and structures are up to par. Because if it's not up to par, then what are we welcoming people into? Are we welcoming them into a nicer part of Pickens, but the rest of Pickens is falling apart? We need to make sure that all of Pickens is ready for the growth. And right now, we're not ready for the growth. We have to get Pickens together before we can welcome any other new growth here.
Allie, we'll start with you on this one. Knowing all of you, I know you're very compassionate people, and you care about people truly. But we have a homeless problem in Pickens. And understanding that we're all compassionate people, but we also understand we have a situation and a problem. How would you address the situation dealing with the homeless?
At least I don't have to ask you to repeat the question this time, Davey. I live on East Baker Street, so I'm right across the road from Blue Ridge Produce, and I have personally walked out of my home in the mornings to go to work and had homeless people on my front steps, the front steps of my home. I've also personally taken videos of school buses the size, actually they're more like the type of buses that the Clemson football team rides on, coming in at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning with homeless people. I have asked questions from people with more insight into this issue than I have, and I have not received answers. My understanding is that the homeless shelter is outside of the city, and it closes at 7 o'clock in the morning and doesn't reopen until 7 p.m. in the evening. I personally have worked with people with addiction problems. I've worked with homeless people myself personally. And if you're going to have a homeless shelter, you need to have resources to help these people. Behavioral health was on Main Street, and I know I have many dear friends that work at behavioral health and at DSS and other state entities that help with these issues. But this is a sincere problem for our city, and it needs to be addressed. And I will diligently seek answers from people that have more insight into this problem than I do, and work however I can to help with this.
Sorry, okay. Yes, definitely a homeless problem. I had one to come across on my property one day, which is 20 acres of kudzu. And he came right through the kudzu field, right through my yard, on my driveway. And I said, "Sir, can I help you?" And he's going like this. And I said, "Sir, can I help you?" Shakes his hand again, kept going down my driveway. Never answered me. Kind of scary. Then I found out he was from the homeless shelter. He walked across the road into the Galilee subdivision. So I called the neighbors over there to give them heads up. Someone's coming across the street. I don't know who he is, where he came from. Then I found out later he was schizophrenic, which is very scary. And he was just out roaming around, walking through the kudzu field. Very brave man to come through that because of the snakes and everything else in there. But we do have a big problem, and I don't know how we're going to address it, because we can't do anything as long as they're in the county, but when they come into the city, we can arrest them if they're doing a crime or anything, but something's got to happen with that place, and I believe in having a place for the homeless. We do need it, but this one I don't think is being handled properly. So we definitely need to take some kind of action. I don't know who to talk with. I did go and visit the people down there to see, you know, because they said there was two higher ups in the city that wanted to shut them down. And I said, well, no one in the city can shut you down because you're not in the city limits. But I just wanted to go and talk with them to see where this came from, in which they told me. But I explained to them we have no jurisdiction there. But we got to do something. It's very important. Thank you.
Very compassionate about people who are homeless and don't have a place to stay. The homeless shelter that's there has some success stories, but very few. Goes back to planning. We have to put in some ordinances, some laws that help protect our citizens so that we won't have that problem of loitering in places that they're not supposed to be. Maybe we can partner with this homeless shelter and say that you need to have some programs available during the day, that you just don't put them out at 7 o'clock in the morning and they can't come back until 7 p.m. Then you have to ask, what is really a homeless shelter other than just putting a roof over somebody's head? I think we're all called now because certain things have been put in our lap. And God is asking us, what are you going to do? I know you want to get rid of them and not have them come in your house, but I read a Bible where it says, I was homeless and you didn't give me any shelter. So that has to take place. But I'm still a proponent that we do it in an organized, regimented way to where we can really get some real success stories. And maybe we can talk to the Dream Center that are doing some great things. We can get it done, but it's up for all of us to work toward it happening. Thank you.
Any of us sitting in here today could end up in a homeless shelter. And I'm not going to sit here and beat it up, downplay it, or nothing else. But I think there needs to be maybe a social worker or something involved up there. Because let's just face it, some people that's there, not just that one, every homeless shelter, that's their career choice. And that's the way they look at it. And I think there needs to be programs put in place through the county, working with the city since it's right on the border of the city, to help them better themselves. And keep an eye on them as a whole, everyone, to where they're not hanging out in front of businesses, vandalizing at businesses, different parts of the city. I think as a whole, it could be a whole lot better than what it is if it was watched more closely by the city and the county, working together and putting, like I said, a social worker or somebody up there and work together as a whole with the county and the city and come up with a good plan to help them to better themselves and not think that's all they got left's what they got there. Thank you.
Anytime you have a homeless shelter, you're going to have problems. I'm not against homeless. As Mr. Scipio stated, any of us could end up homeless at any time. They have no structure there. They only go there and sleep. That's it. They have no classes there to try to get them better, from what I understand, to get them out on the street and become productive. So if they're not going to do it, I would like to see a plan come in place to where we could work together and get something, constructive for those homeless people in order to make them, not make them, but in order to get them back on their feet and get them going. And just like any homeless shelter, there's people there that can work. They just don't want to. They choose to live that life. When I was in Greenville with the state, we had a big homeless problem over there under a bridge. We spoke to those people, we talked to them, and they would flat tell you, I don't want to go to work. This is my life. I don't want a place to live. I want to live in this tent. I'm used to it. I want to do this. Yes, I have a heart for the homeless, but we're going to have to do something to get a structure out there. And they're bussed in. They're not from here. 90% of those people are not from here. They're bussed in out of Anderson, Greenville, and brought in here to this homeless shelter and set out on our streets. And we need to do something in order to get a constructive thing there to get them back on their feet and get them going. Thank you.
I'm going to be brief on what I have to say about that, but just to piggyback on what has been said, I have a compassionate heart as it pertains to the homeless and to those who are less fortunate. However, there needs to be some type of order that needs to be put in place. For as we know, as it has already been stated, the shelter that is currently here in Pickens County opens at a certain time, closes at a certain time, but there's nothing for them to do throughout the day. And of course, not everybody is going to want to participate in a program that may be established for them. But if we have something in place, it may provide that hope for them that, hey, maybe there's something that can occupy me while I'm away from the shelter for a little while, something that will allow them to be productive instead of just popping up in different places. And so I believe that it's council's responsibility, even though we don't really have a say over, per se, the shelter because it's outside of the city limits, we can do something as a council in the city to help with the homeless situation. And I believe it starts with us.
I agree that failing to plan is planning to fail. This issue's excuse me, this is near and dear to my heart. I'll tell you why. You can plan all day long, and sometimes we need to plan means we're not doing anything until we get something perfect together. Well, when I read my Bible, I mean, everybody knows the golden rule. We want to do unto others as we'd have them to do to us. Well, there was a day when my wife and I, even I thought this highfalutin rich lawyer, you know what I mean? I wasn't ever rich, but, everybody thinks I am, you know what I mean? So they're not. Believe me, lawyers are not all rich. But anyway, because of a 16-level back fusion that because from progressive scoliosis that set on me overnight, basically, I was put in the hospital and I had to have a back fusion where they put metal rods, titanium rods in my back from my shoulders to my waist. You guys understand what that does to your spinal cord and all the nerves and everything that's running into your colon and your bladder and your legs and your feet. Nothing wanted to work. It took me years. Well, during that time, my wife was in a couple car wrecks. The Lord just brought this to us to show us some reality. The reality was we became homeless. My wife and I, we lost our home. We lost my law practice at the time. We lost everything. We had to declare bankruptcy, and now I'm one of those ones that everybody needs to plan for. Well, there were some real kind people that had us into their house, and they loved us, and there was no time to plan. I mean, this happened just like that, overnight. I mean, it's like bang, 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 you're on the street. And there were really kind Christian people that had us into their house and took us in and loved us and blessed us. And that's what I think the answer is for all of us. We have got to be the answer to everybody that comes into our lives. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Thank you. So this is one that some of you guys have touched on briefly and was brought to us, and we had it on our list as well, is what would you like to see done about the issues with the water and sewage and sanitation in the town? And Ms. Lois, we'll start with you.
Well, cleaner water, better water pressure. I could go on all day about this. I worked in the water department for 21 years at the city, so I answered quite a few questions when we had problems with our water. But just good, clean water, water pressure, that is a big issue in our city, and we've got to do something to improve that. It's very important.
I think we can really work hard toward making our public works more productive. It's a lot of things with people have their trash, not trash, but a lot of brush that hadn't been picked up for weeks. It's because of the lack of communication, for one thing, and then also the brush truck would tear up. It was so many other things that happened that we have to really look at that so that we can make sure that all things are done in a proper way. Our water is on the way to being fixed, but we can't have a good water source and still put it in old pipes. So it's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort to get all of our infrastructure in place for that water. What can we do until then? We have to work together and make sure that we get the resources available for us to systematically get this done. Now, part of that comprehensive plan that I'm looking at has the infrastructure in that also. It needs to be done in a phase program. One phase is this area, one phase is that area, and then we hopefully get it all done in that way. But it's something that we can evaluate and look at on a monthly, quarterly, and yearly basis to see where we're at. Thank you.
The water system, if there's gonna be a new water plant on Lake Kiwi, we're getting water from. Just like Ike said, there needs to be a plan to upgrade all the houses that's supplied by city water. You got houses out here that's got water lines that's from the 60s. I know I'm one of them. And you need to work together with a plan to come up with, and it ain't gonna happen overnight. So many years, you'll have this section, that section, this and this, all replaced with new water lines, updated water lines. You don't want better quality water, more pressured water going into a 60-year-old galvanized line, because you're gonna have a problem. A bigger problem than what you got already. And as far as public works, there's room for improvement, but there's room for improvement in every department in the city. You can always do better than what you're doing. Thank you.
It does no good to get a new water plant if we can't get the water to you. Yes, we need to update our water lines, make sure they're there so when this plant goes online that we're able to get the water to you. It needs to be like a locomotive. We don't need to miss these steps. We need to keep chugging along. We need to keep going. We need to grab every grant that we can grab out there in order to make this happen. As far as the public works go, they're overworked, they're understaffed, just like our police department, just like our fire department. They're overworked, they're understaffed. Back when the storm came through, if it had not been for Easley coming up and helping us out with brush trucks to help us pick our brush up, we would have been in a mess. We have one truck. We don't have enough employees in public works really to keep it efficient as it is. We used to have part-time help. One of the administrators that came here basically did away with all the part-time help. They were great. I mean, that was a no-brainer. All you have to do is pay their salary. You don't have to give them insurance. You don't have to do anything. They were there. They were working. They wanted to make the money. And we need to look at that. We need to look at more part-time help, recruiting some part-time help in here to help with this city. to keep our city clean. When Trump came through, we cleaned our city up. The city was clean. We need to continue to keep it clean. And it's going to take a lot of progress to do that. Thank you.
I think that it's important to know that we have to retain the help for, as it has already been stated, that our public works department is understaffed. And we see it all the time. I see it when they come to pick up the trash at times. Sometimes there's one person on the truck, and they're struggling to try to get trash cans loaded up, and they're trying to move to the next house and move down to the next street. But I believe that we have to have some type of initiative or something to get the help. You have to have something that's going to make the people want to come to work. So we have to have some type of system in place for that as it pertains to our public works. Now, as it pertains to the water situation, that there have been certain neighborhoods in Pickens that have gotten new pipes put in the road and for the water to be able to flow through without any issue. But there's been certain neighborhoods that the road's been dug up, the pipes have been looked at, but they haven't been changed. And they're still running the same water, but the pressure is still low. And why is that? We do not know. But something has to be done about that. That's the only way. If we are going to function as one city together, every neighborhood should be taken care of. Not just one particular group. Every neighborhood has to be taken care of. And that's, again, falls on the responsibility of not only Public Works, but falls on the responsibility of council as well. Thank you.
I befriended a garbage collector that comes by our house, and he told me he was making $10 an hour. Nobody can live on $10 an hour. I mean, I wanted to cry with the guy, you know. I mean, and he said, I barely feed my family. I mean, he's not feeding his family, and let's just put it that way. He's not. So we have an infrastructure problem with water and sewer. We all know it is. And right here, I go back to this is the answer. This is the answer you guys have. We have lent that problem to government. I mean, we're no longer digging wells. You know, we don't have septic anymore. Perhaps it would be better if we did. We could control our own infrastructure. And now we've given that over to government, like we're giving everything else in this country, and we think government always has the best answer. Well, you can see they don't have the best answer. They never do. And you're just left a slave. You know what I mean? To whoever it is you represent, you elected to put into office. So, yeah, the infrastructure's been bad. My understanding, it's been 80, 100 years old. It's just full of mud and everything else, and everybody's just sitting back thinking, what are we going to do? You know, and, well, the only thing that's left to do apparently at this time is you dig a well and put a septic in, which that will just relieve you of the problem. I know it's going to cost you some money, but it may take a long time. My understanding, it'll be 4 years before this is all done, before we have the water hooked up to Lake Huey and the pipes and the infrastructure rebuilt. Well, if you can do that, great. Put in the city council and the mayor that you want to run this city for the next 4 years while we're getting that done, so that you know that it's being done, that the absolute best, we're getting the money that we can get, you're getting the best services that's absolutely available to you, or otherwise, like I said, dig a well, put in the septic, and take control of your own life. Thank you.
On a positive note, almost $5 million grant we learned about last night at the meeting for water. This all started with a lack of a plan, and as it was mentioned earlier, the water's been running from Lake Huey through Pickens to Greenville for years. So lack of a plan, time for change. We're on the right track. What's going to happen? What's the plan going to be for repairing the sidewalks and the roads after the infrastructure is replaced? Who's going to work on that? What are they going to be paid? How are we going to support them? And let's make sure that we cover all the parts of the city of Pickens. Thank you.
Okay, you guys can take a deep breath now. We're almost done. I do want to say each of your passion for Pickens in our community is apparent, and if nobody else tells you, thank you for your willingness to serve, because I know you're not doing it for money. It's not a high-paying job, and you can really tell that each of you guys care. And at least I appreciate you for that effort. Whoever may win these roles, thank you for your willingness to serve. So we're going to end with closing statements from everybody. And we're actually going to go in reverse order. So we'll start with Allie and come backwards this way, so everybody gets a chance to go in a different order. So Allie, we'll start with you. 2 minutes on your closing statement, and then we'll go our way down.
Thank you all again so much for being here. I am very passionate about my home, and I hope that it will be my home forever, and I hope that it'll be a beautiful place for our next generation. I'm very passionate about youth as well. Volunteering. I'm a volunteer myself. I have a lot of experience. I work every day with legal contracts, reviewing budgets. I'm very good in a leadership role, and I'm really looking forward to serving you and seeing a better Pickens for the next generation and for the current residents that live here today, all of my neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you guys and get to know you, or you get to know me a little bit. I'd like to get to know you guys too. As an attorney, I did more than half my practice as pro bono law attorney. That was how I gave to not only in my church, a lot in our church, as Sunday school teacher and so on, which we're still doing. But also as a pro bono attorney, I gave a lot to my community, and I've always had a heart for people who were not able to represent themselves and needed help. I didn't feel it was fair for them to not have legal processes available, to whatever it is, divorce or estate planning, whatever. I tried to help people. I'm in Pickens now, and I have a heart for people. I have a heart for serving the Lord. I have a heart for serving others, and I have a big knowledge of the law, or if I don't have it, I know how to get access to it. And I think I can represent you as a client fairly well on this council, and I think that based upon my experience and my love for this area of South Carolina, like I said, we came here when I was 13, so I have a vested interest in seeing South Carolina, and I don't want to see this state become like the western states where I lived, where it's just inundated with corruption of every kind, and again, it starts with who you put into office and their ideals and their world view, and that's what you're going to get for the next 4 years. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
I love God. I love my family. I love my community. I've ran this campaign with a slogan on my sign, change that we need. I love Pickens, but we need change. Some things are good, but also just like a car, like a fine-tuned machine, some things need to be changed. And so that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to serve you, to be your voice, to be your representative, to help in whatever way I can to help you. You need someone who can not only confront the good, but also who can confront challenges. And I can do that. I was elected to my church during the time of a pandemic. And it was during that time that I had to make some serious choices. Some that were popular, some that weren't popular. And that's what we need here in Pickens. Someone who is not afraid to stand up when you need to stand up. Someone who's not afraid to do what's not popular in order to get things done. I want to serve you, and that's my hope, to be a servant to you.
I've traveled all over the United States. I was always glad to come back home to Pickens. Pickens is my home. I grew up here. I went to school here. I went to school in this Ben Haygood, when it was Ben Haygood School here, back in the 60s. Lived right across the street. I've had a great childhood here. I wanted my children and grandchildren to have a great childhood here in Pickens. If reelected, I promise to continue to fight for the folks. I promise to continue to be your voice. I promise to continue to try to spend the money wisely. I promise to stand up I'm one of the only council members, as far as I know, when I first came on, that has their phone number on the website. Folks have called me, I've gone out, I've took time away from family, took time away from functions to go out and meet with these folks and look at their problems. And I would continue to do so. Thank you.
Like I said before, I've lived here my whole life. A lot of people know me or my family. The ones that don't, I've been knocking on doors and introducing myself. And I've told several, if elected, I want you to answer the door like you did this time when I knocked on it to introduce myself to you. And you tell me your concerns, and I'll take them back to the council to discuss it as a council, as a whole, and see if we can come up with a solution to your problem. And if elected, you can take that to the bank. That's my word to you. If I knocked on your door and you answered it, you answer it the next time I come and tell me whether I want to hear it or not. I'll be there and listen to it. I'd appreciate your support. Thank you.
Service is the rent we pay for the space we occupy. Pickens is that city that sits upon a hill. Every place you come to Pickens, you got to come up a hill to get here. Made us some of the best athletes around because you had to run these hills. But Main Street is the pinnacle of that hill. And it said a city that's set up on a hill cannot be hid. So people, God, and others are looking at us, wondering what we're going to do at this pivotal moment in our history. This is a very, very important election. In order for us to move forward, it's up to you. I would love to serve because I realize what it takes to serve, not to lord over you, but to serve, and to be here for you in any time in which you need me. I've been a minister for 33 years, and I know what it means to get up in the middle of the night and go get a young lady who's in a crack house down in Columbia, and my wife is here. She let me go and do that. So I know what it means to give your life to what you believe in. I just want that opportunity to do it at the level in which God has brought me to here in Pickens. I promise you, you can trust me. I will be honest. And I will be informative. You will know. I'm going to ask our city attorney, what can't I say? Thank you.
Okay. After working with the city for 21 years, while I was there, I met so many wonderful people, and I saw a lot of need in our community, and I tried to help them with their problems and when they had issues with the water. I was there for them, and I think I did a lot of good for the city, and I want to continue doing that because I love the people in the city, and I want to continue to represent them and listen to all their concerns. I want to be fair, transparent, and I will not do represent special interest groups. I mean, I will not do favors special. And I'm just there to serve everybody, all of the city of Pickens. Thank you.
Let's give them a hand. Thank y'all for being here. Thank y'all for being respectful of each and every one of these people. They'll hang around a minute or two if you want to talk to them and ask them more questions. Thank you again for being here. Good night. God bless.